Hello, 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 everybody. And once again, welcome back. We are here for another national team interview. This time, I am joined by the Danish team captain, Tripleskull. Please be welcome here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for
Uh,
inviting. And hello to chat and people watching later.
yep. Uh, Absolutely. Thank you again for. I know everybody has a busy schedule with the tournament coming up so shortly, and this being an entirely spur of the moment thing for you. So this is regarding EUROBOWL 2024 in that is happening in Athens, Greece, and we have the Denmark roster here already open for everyone to see. But first, Tripleskull, would you mind sort of telling us a little bit about the Danish team, like your personal history with it as well? And I will remember to do it now. Congratulations on winning the last one. I believe the Danish are the defending champions.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. That was a great experience. One angle on it is finally winning it, but it was also amazing to win it at this point. My first Euroball was 2006. Um, and there was a few Danish teams for the Euroball before that, actually, even.
Mm.
But the Danish presence at Euroball for real was in 2006 for the first time because to have a full team of 8 strong players, we needed to combine Jutland and Copenhagen, and that happened in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And from then on, we actually had a very strong team for many years. We have traditionally fought for the championship most years after 2006, up until the tens. No, I mean up until the 20s. I would say at least. But lately, the bigger nations have become very, very strong, and we struggle a little bit to keep up. So winning it in Malta was a big surprise. But after losing like five finals, where we had a real shot with either a draw or win in the last round, it also sort of felt well deserved, if
Mm.
that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah.
And now we have a generational change in the team. We had a core. We lost some old players a long time ago, but then we've had a core of really old players, and now we're starting to lose one here and there. Most notably this year, we're losing Miss Sweden and missing him a lot.
Mm.
But we are also getting in new good players. So we have half of the players are pretty veteran, and half of the players are pretty new to the EuroBowl format, at least the national team.
Mm. I found it that in like that is kind of my preferred state little bit in like generally in team sports, and I like probably in Blood Bowl as well, to have that sort of balance between like having more veteran players and then getting new blood in, because it is always good that like in case like that happens, that like the old guard or the core like starts because life happens, you can't always be there, and like you might lose, like don't have the free time or move somewhere, and you can't really participate. So having some like people that you can bring up and still rely on them to do well is important.
Yeah, and I've been doing lots of work over the years to expand the tournament scene and expand the community in Denmark, and I'm very happy to see these new strong players. And there are a lot of those. So, but it's just that if you want to be at the very top of the EuroBall, it's not enough to have 8 strong players. You need basically 8 very strong players,
Mm.
and that's hard to come by. But we're working on it, and we are almost there.
Mm. And I'm certain that like experiences like at Eurobowl where you've been playing against like in the top tables, like with the strong teams, will help you in like honing your own skills and being able to compete even better the next time.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Um with that, do we are looking at the teams that you are bringing in, like just as a whole, and there is one team in particular that sort of catches the eye. I feel for many, and
Yeah.
that is Morstad with the Chaos Renegade. That is not a team choice that we very often have seen. I don't think. I think this is the first Chaos Renegade team that we've seen of the teams that we've looked at here. We have Cyrix DK saying "Go Denmark" in the chat. Good to have,
Woo!
good to have active fans, and welcome to the stream. Hope you enjoy. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
we'll
Let's
start
talk. Let's
there.
Yeah, the Chaos Renegades and Morstad. I guess a little backstory here is that Morstad, for the second year in a row, no, for the second EUROBOWL in a row, we had to replace a player after picking the team. And that's the first time ever we done that. So that's a new experience. And actually, Morstad replaced Miss Sweden. And in 2000, I think it was 9 in Biarritz, in France, the French EuroBowl, we Miss Sweden went with Chaos Pact. I think it was no tiers. Everyone got 6 skills, and there was no one who knew anything about the Chaos Pact team because no one was playing it, and he did very well. But basically, that's not the reason Morstad is playing Chaos Renegades. Morstad got in as a substitute for the team, and at the point we needed a substitute, the Euro Open team didn't want to be split up, and some other players had made other plans that had been in the pool. So at the end of the day, I decided to pick Morstad because he's an up-and-coming player and he's very active in the community, organizing stuff, and very eager to be a better player. So I picked him for that reason, and he likes the Renegades, and I let him play what he likes, a bit of a high variance team. And I can't say I don't regret a little bit not putting him on Necro. It would have been a better choice, I think, but this has opportunities. And it's a roster that can easily beat anyone because of the high variance of the roster.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a team that, like, if the dice go your way, they can do tremendous damage, and as well as, like, they have the necessary, like, ability to both, like, run with the ball as well with both the Skaven and the Dark Elf. Um, Lord Borak is there have been a few star players that we've seen. I believe the Spanish team had two different on different teams, but Lord Borak is a first, and he's a fairly hefty investment as star players do go.
Yeah, I imagine the Spanish would love this roster, but yeah, he is expensive, but he is very good. He provides half a reroll. He has the best skill combo, the most broken skill combo in the game, and he has block and mighty blow strength 5. So it's a very good player. I'm not saying it's a top 10 team or that it's a very good team, but it's a team that has possibilities. And Mostad did pretty well in the not so easy Danish tournament scene with the team. So it's not trivial to beat this team, even if it has a lot of weaknesses.
It is definitely one of those and, like, we've discussed it before in the previous interviews, that it, like, a coach being comfortable with the team that they are playing can make a huge difference, like, in a high skill environment, and like that is definitely something that should be considered, and, like, understandable if Morstad feels that he does the best with Chaos Renegades. I can certainly understand.
Yeah, and it's also about having a team you have fun with, and that also has some place in the. So I'm happy with the choice we made at the time. If I could make another choice now, maybe I would make another choice. But
definitely going to be.
and I think for skills, There's not really anything to discuss about this Borak roster. It needs to look like this, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has any questions about this. The Rat Ogre is the main blitzing piece and needs the block. Guard on the ogre, dodge on the dark elf, leader to get that second reroll, wrestle on the scave, and yeah, it all looks it all looks very solid from like what you would expect of a competitive Chaos Renegade.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
we will see how good Borak is. That will probably decide a lot.
All right. With the sort of odd man out, shall we say? We'll move on to the top of the list here and work our way down. We have Seabrawl with the Dark Elf roster, and this is very familiar at this point. Block Wrestle Witches. I prefer this version as well. Like we've seen plenty of people go for the double wrestle witches rather than block wrestle. 3 dodges on the blitzers as expected. An assassin with dodge, 2 rerolls, apothecary. Very solid Dark Elf team.
Yeah, for sure. And Zebro is winning in a lot of places with this roster. And I guess the only thing to discuss is whether you want the third reroll or the extra assassin. For me, if you have an assassin, the first assassin needs to have dodge.
Yeah.
And then you need to sacrifice a skill for that. And then I can't fit in the leader. While I love the leader, I can't fit it in with an assassin. So and I trust Zebro has been training a lot more with this build than I have been training with an assassin build. So I trust him very much, and this is his choice. Maybe I would put in the extra assassin with these skills, but he doesn't want it, and I think that fits his style.
We have definitely like it has been brought up that like the current expected meta of what teams are being brought in, there are going to be like definitely teams that can be vulnerable to assassin, and especially the double assassin. I am personally like a sort of advocate for the Dark Elf runner, just because I think it just gives that one extra tool to the Dark Elf arsenal. I am a fan of it. But it's certainly not like, this is certainly still a very solid roster, and again, if he is convinced that this is the roster that he's gonna do the best with, then I think the coach should be allowed to play with.
I'm really wary about playing with 2 rerolls, but he makes it work, and I think if you play it, if it fits your style to manage the 2 rerolls, I think it's fine. So that's primarily the thing for me with the thrower, because it comes at a price. Dump off is nice, but carrying on a player without block and dodge is an issue. And then you can carry on a blitzer, but then you need to protect the thrower a lot, and you don't want to do that. So I tend to carry on the thrower, and I kind of like that, but it's not without a cost.
Agreed. Then we have next up Amazon player Hovering.
Yeah, maybe I should mention that Zebro should have been at the EUROBOWL next year, but so this is his first EUROBOWL because he had a baby at a horrible time because he can't count to 9. So that's a problem for him when he tries to score the touchdowns. If it's more than 9 fields away, that's why he doesn't play fast teams, because then he can't move the 9 squares.
Well, I'm glad to have him in the team for this one. Then, hopefully the he doesn't need to ever calculate what's the 1 in 9 chances of anything. So,
oh no, he just plays.
he just rolls and he doesn't need to think about it. That's fair. All right. But yeah, Hovering with hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. With the Amazon team. Amazon being one of the stable rosters in many a team because they are so strong. Light variance in that I can't remember if there were any other. I think there was one other roster that we've looked at that has gone for like block guard on the blockers rather than either committing both the block or the more common, I think, which is the double guard on the blockers.
We discussed this a lot,
Mm,
and it was also at the table to give the eighth skill to Amazons for a long time, but
mm,
and then it would be double guard.
yeah.
And I only have one tournament, I think, with the new Amazons, and for me it's double guard. But I haven't tested the blogger, I think, and I've seen some games where it has a lot of utility, and it's the roster that Horing settled on, and I have a lot of trust in him with the Amazon. So I would probably go with two guards, but
Mm,
if this is what he wants, and I'm sure it works. And no, the French Amazons have the same build, I
mm,
think.
mm.
So he's in good company choosing this combination.
Yeah. Is he, by the way, another new blood, or is he more of a veteran?
Yeah, he's kind of funny new blood. He came in on the back of the World Cup. He
Mm,
was in an international team in the World Cup, and I think maybe the World Cup was his first ever tabletop tournament,
wow.
or maybe the second. And I believe his team came in fourth or something like that.
Mm,
At least top 10.
mm, mm,
They beat the English President's Men in the first round 4-1. And I think they had 6 wins after 6 rounds or something like that. He's a fumble player.
mm,
He was in fumble from the beginning
mm,
of Fumble's time. Then he just found tabletop after the World Cup. So we are happy to have him, and yeah, I'm very confident he will blast the
mm,
tournament scene.
mm,
He's already done that, so
mm.
it's easy.
It comes highly recommended. Then fair enough. Um, we have is it Yagra or
Yeah,
Jagra?
yeah, we call him Shaka.
Ah,
Yagra. No,
Yagra.
Yagra, I think.
Okay.
It's
He's
called Jacob. So that's
yeah. He is someone that I have. While I haven't ever met or talked to him, I have heard of him from the Swedish coaches on the Swedish national team. They have mentioned
yeah,
him in passing, so I'm at least somewhat familiar with him. He's got a very good reputation as a coach.
yeah.
And he's running a Lizardman roster with little bit of like deviance from the norm in that like we've seen rosters with the whole like 6 Saurus blocks. We've seen rosters where one of the blocks is exchanged for a tackle, for example, or potentially a guard. We've seen some guards on the Croxigore, but he is, I believe, the first one to put an actual skill on a skink, and that is a sneaky git of all things.
Yeah, it is. It's a very interesting roster, and Chakra is the grandfather of Blood Bowl in Denmark. Basically, his younger brother is sort of the connecting dot between all of the old school good players in Copenhagen. And he had a break from the game, and then he came back and he plays a lot, and he plays very well. But
Mm.
he's being so old, he doesn't learn many new tricks. But this new trick, sometimes he finds golden stuff lying in the corners, and I think people will realize that there are two. There are three. The third best Lizardman build is the French build with a guard piece.
Mm, mm,
The, the, the second best is the 6 blockers, and this is the best Lizardman build because it plays into the weakness that Lizardman has. The guard plays into the strength of the Lizardman team,
mm,
and the 6 block also plays into the strength. But this gives something new to the team,
mm,
and I think that will prove successful.
mm. I think it certainly has that like many like especially at the high end where many people think of like okay the lizardmen have these strengths and like this is how they're going to play with that like even though it's not a massive like leap from that like just that little bit of extra can throw people off guard. They might not be something that they consider, and then they'll leave themselves vulnerable. Certainly.
Yeah, I've played a bit around. I just failed massively with my sneaky kid on that roster today,
Mm.
but I played a little bit around with this Lizardman roster. It was actually also Blood Bowl 3,
Mm.
and my experience is that it really gives a lot to the team. I suspect that in a few years' time, other people will be playing this roster.
Fair enough. That's some very very high confidence in this.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly going to be interesting to see, and I'm certain that many other people will be interested to see like just how well this is going to do.
Yeah.
Then we have Machurto.
Yeah, it's the Spanish guy in the Danish team.
Yeah, it's there have been some other people who have perhaps wandered away from their homeland and ended up in other teams, but
Oh, who could you be thinking about?
there might be somebody on the English roster in particular that comes to mind, but
Yeah, maybe.
perhaps
Yeah,
uh
perhaps.
yeah. But yeah, I believe this is the first orc roster that we've at least taken a look at that is actually bringing the troll with them. So that is a departure from the norm. Also, 2 goblins and no thrower. So quite the sort of departure from
Yeah,
the norm.
yeah. As you probably noticed by now, I'm quite confident in my judgment, borderline arrogant. But orcs is the one thing that I don't have so strong opinions about because I feel I struggle to play them. This is a roster that's provided by Tank, who has like 5 or 7 Danish championships, most of them with orcs. And that's his recommendation. For me, I think it doesn't really matter the details in building an orc team. You need some guard. I like the Mighty Blow Blitzer. I like the Tackle Blitzer and the current meta. If you don't abuse the troll, I think it's good. The puke is good. Majoto was picked up orcs after the Underworld nerf. So it's also a bit of a second choice. I don't consider orcs to be clearly top 10. So I think it's a fine team that can do well, but I don't consider it top 8. If I had like the perfect combination of coaches preferring the top 8 races, I wouldn't have orcs in there in my judgment. But it's a good fit for Emilio, who needed to change from one race to another, and he had some experience with orcs. So
Yeah, orcs are definitely one of those kind of always solid teams that you can fall back on. Like
yeah.
But I personally I am personally sort of like I have a bias against orcs because I keep getting smashed in the face by them. But like I have found myself in a similar position that I don't really like playing orcs. Like it's just like it is especially like they just seem a step too slow for my tastes. And it gives this odd feeling. But yeah, it's I can certainly like the troll plays both into like the strength of the brawling line for the orcs, and then with the 2 goblins, like it also opens up the possibility at the very least of a throw teammate one turner. So
yeah, sure.
I can definitely see the idea behind the roster. But yeah, the Morstad we have already covered, so we'll be hopping over to Mr. Cappuccino with the Gambling Undead. This is I think this is one of those fairly traditional looking lineups. The 2 wrestle on the ghoul is one that like it fluctuates. Like sometimes it's 2 blocks and a wrestle. Sometimes there's a strip ball.
No, but you can't do that with
Yeah.
the extra skill. So this is this is the build for extra skill. For the ghouls, there are really only 3 skills that's relevant in Resurrection format. It's block and wrestle and sure hands. But when you have 3 rerolls, you usually don't go for sure hands. So block and wrestle, and you would want to have 2 block and 1 wrestle if you could.
Yeah.
But having 7 skills is really great for this team. As I think there was another team with the same choice. It was like Undead, Skaven, and Amazon. And we decided that Undead and Skaven benefited most from the extra skill, and then we left the Amazons for the vanilla package.
Yeah.
But
there is something that I don't think we've seen. At least I don't remember us seeing it on other Undead rosters. There is a Bloodvisor keg to be had in here. Well,
yeah, and I think that's the second of the gems you will find in the Danish builds. The Sneaky Kid being the first, and this being the second. And shout out to Andy Davo because we stole the idea from him. But I think I've only seen one other cake on Undead, and I think that's also something everyone will be doing in a few years' time because it's quite brilliant.
Yeah, I can certainly see the it coming in handy for like this game that Undead are often playing. Yeah.
The way you lose with Undead is usually knocked out of failed regens on your positions.
Yeah.
And every time the cake saves one of your position, you might not lose the game because of it.
Yeah. Certainly.
So that extra zombie, yeah, he can matter. It matters sometimes, but getting in these positional players is much more important.
Yeah. There have been some rosters that have put strip ball on a ghoul runner rather than a wrestle, but I do personally at least think that wrestle is just overall more useful.
Yeah, I experiment a lot and probably more than I should, but basically a runner without block or whistle is a mistake. Unless it's a rookie ghoul. I think rookie ghouls are fine because I like skills on mummies. But not putting block or whistle on the ghouls when you have 3 rerolls is just plainly a mistake. Because they are too squishy and it's not your game plan. Stripping the ball is not the game plan. You have the tackle and you have the wrestle.
Yeah.
And I would consider, you could consider 4 guards, but in the current meta you need that tackle. So I think that's as it should be. So
yeah, I do agree that I think strip ball is a luxury skill rather than a necessity. Well, yeah. How is Mr. Cappuccino as a coach perspective?
Yeah, he's a veteran. He was also, I think he wasn't there in 2006. But he was there in 2009, I think, at least. So we've played a lot of EuroBowls and a lot of World Cups together. So he's the old guard, and we've been getting a lot of second places together, and a single first place.
Well, I mean, definitely seems like a team that wants to keep that going, defending their title.
Yeah, we want to give it our best try, and we have a lot of very strong players. So
moving on to probably another strong player, we have Tank Gavin.
Yeah. Yeah, he was the individual MVP of the last EuroBowl with his Skaven, and I think it's the same build except with the new rules you get an extra gutter runner because the money fits better.
Yeah.
And then he gets the extra skill also, so everyone is skilled up. So we just decided that just give it to the Skaven and expect them to win. I'm not so sure about how the overall stats on Skaven are, but it seems like tournament MVPs are very regularly Skaven. So in the hands of guys like Olivier and Tank, it's a struggle to play against.
Yeah, and I mean, I like Skaven are due to the fact that they have the 4 gutter runners in particular. They are one of those teams that many like a team captain can rely on for them to not lose, just because of the fact that how well they score, almost regardless of situation on the ball.
Yeah, it's should be quite comfortable to secure the draw most of the time, and then the one turn score is filthy good, and sometimes you just outcast your opponent, and the games becomes ridiculously easy. So so there's a lot of things going for this game. About skills, I think we've seen a little bit of now let's just leave it. I'm probably gonna come back to that point anyway. So I think there's a few choices to be made, but I really like these choices too.
Yeah, the one choice that sort of has been like sort of flickering in and out is the what do you take on the second Skaven Blitz? The Mighty Blow has often been a tackle.
Yeah, and I think Mighty Blow, Tackle, and Guard is the 3 skills. You need 2 of those,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think I would also prefer Mighty Blow and Guard, but Tackle has a lot of uses in particular situations. But Mighty Blow does something in the most of those situations, and you're not so reliant on taking people down because you just want some attrition, and then you're more utilizing your speed. It's not like you're tackling the ball carrier. You are stripping the ball carrier, right? Most of the time, or wrestling.
Very true. Last but not least, we have yours truly. Coaching the vampires.
Yes.
Vampires are a very they're considered a very, very strong team, but they're also considered by many to be a very tricky team to get the most out of.
Yeah. And we've also seen a lot of different builds, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen some plainly weird builds.
There have been 2 Vargeist have made an appearance. One in a team with like on the Spanish vampire team.
Yeah, the Spanish team with Wilhelm and Vargeist is something.
Yeah, and then we saw a team with the Vargeist and the full roster of vampire, like all of the other vampires as well. And only, I believe, 2 rerolls on that roster as well. So it was a very ambitious, shall we say, or relying on the fact that surely I'm not going to bloodlust, right?
But the Spanish, no, I don't remember who the other guy was. Oh, it was Belgium, right? But the Spanish is fun. The roster is really funny because that's an elite player, like a world-class player, and he has this weird roster. And he was at a tournament in Denmark recently, and he did very well. So it's a weird roster, but he probably makes it work. But I think there are 2 rosters basically to consider, and it's the stacked roster, and it's something along the lines of this roster. I have a tournament with the stacked roster, and it's very nice. The block dodge throwers are absolute monsters. Whether you have 1 or 2 is for debate, and you can have other stacks that are very good. I don't particularly like the Mighty Blow block, but I see that it can do a lot of things. But other stacks could be very good. So stacking vampires is monstrously good, but it comes with the downside of having a little bit skills on too few players, I think. But it's still a very, very good roster, and it might very well be the best roster, but I decided that I like this roster better. After trying a lot of rosters with a lot of times with 5 vampires, and basically don't I didn't think I would make 6 vampires work,
Mm.
but once I tried it, I really liked it because it's more resilient. You don't need to move so much around because you have 6 vampires.
Mm.
I have 5 rerolls.
Yep.
I think it works very well. I have a few losses with the team, but one was against Straumann. It was basically a coin flip, and the other was a very extreme game. No,
Mm.
that was even not. It wasn't even this roster.
Mm.
So I think I settled for this roster, and I really like it. But the stack rosters are really hard to handle.
Mm.
They're just a little high risk because you don't have block players to do your blocking. I
Mm.
don't have block players
Yeah.
except for that one important block thrall who
Mm.
does a lot of work. So that's my take on it. And I ended up on vampires because Miss Sweden dropped off the team. I would have probably played Wood Elves,
Mm.
but I consider vampires stronger than Wood Elves, even though I think Wood Elves does very well with an expert Wood Elf coach,
Mm.
and I am such a coach. But
Mm.
I haven't been liking playing Wood Elves with the new rules. It's always feels like such a struggle, and vampires feels a little bit easy.
Mm.
So I hope I can live up to those
Mhm.
expectations, and
Oh,
see how it goes against very good opponents.
I am very curious on the like on the vampire blitzers specifically. You have both frenzy and strip ball, which are not skills that I don't think I've seen them be put on like the vampire players. So would you mind opening that up a little bit, like because like especially because of that, like the bloodlust and vampires being so reliant on good positioning overall. Um,
Yeah, I will. Maybe I'll not. It's clear that the frenzy is a threat to the sidelines,
mm, mm,
and combine that with gaze, and there's a lot of things you can't do.
mm,
And the strip ball, well, I didn't have the strip ball originally, and the way I fitted in the strip ball was to add the 6th vampire because I wasn't going to give up my frenzy piece.
mm, mm,
And after having the strip ball, it's just when you face those undead rosters, you might gauge your way to the ball, but it's still a block dodger, and there's some guard in there.
yeah.
The strip balls does a lot of work in that situation, and so I think one of the stacks you could do is something like dodge strip ball, but well, then again, I don't like dodge on the blitzers. I think they should do other stuff, but maybe I don't know. But I think actually I think strip ball is something you want to do if you don't go block dodge block dodge.
Mm,
I don't know. The block mighty blow is probably fine.
mm,
Killing people while you have a lot of players and steal the ball all the time, it's probably fine.
mm,
But it opens up when you get in trouble.
mm,
The strip ball is there,
mm.
and if people don't have sure hands, they are always in trouble.
Yeah.
So that's the reasoning.
Seems like a well thought out, solid reasoning there. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I think that so the next question, we sort of a little bit uh covered that already, but essentially like what are your like the team's aims in the tournament, and if there are any particular teams that you would want to face, or if, that you think are going to be tough opposition, like open up that sort of like essentially like
I think
where you place, like where would you celebrate if you placed here? Like I'm assuming that you're going for the win.
we would, yeah, we would most likely celebrate a podium
Mm,
uh, from any starting point. I think reaching the podium would be a success that would be worth celebrating. But I thought about it, and I think the primary measure of success is I will be very happy if we, after 4, maybe even 5 rounds, is still in the running for the title.
mm,
That will be a success for me. If we end up 8th place after losing round 6, that's fine. Or maybe drawing round 5, losing round 6, we end up 8th place. It's fine. We had a shot at the win. I want us to be able to put us in that situation where we can play for the win. But I would be surprised if the winner is not France, Italy, or England, and I would be very surprised if the winner is not France, Italy, England, or Spain or Germany. So there's and then of all the rest of the teams, I think we're the best team. But that's pretty far down the line, and there's a lot of other very, very good teams. I'm very curious to see how far the Swedish team can take it, because they have a lot of good players. They have a few players I don't know so well, but they have a very, very strong team, and I think they beat England last time, and they have a very, very good team. And there's a lot of teams, and there's a lot of other teams that can beat any team. So there will be a lot of mix-ups in the results. But I think a team like Sweden, which is a very strong team, is a very unlikely winner, and I think we are almost as unlikely a winner. But we can win, and like team like Switzerland has like at least 3 players at the absolute top level. But is the rest of the team strong enough to give them a chance to win? Probably not. But they can beat anyone, and so can a lot of other teams actually, as we've seen. I don't know the American players, but I know, and I don't know the American team as a whole, but I know some of the players is top level. That's also enough to actually be able to beat any team in the tournament, I think, depending on how good the other players are.
There are definitely going to be, like, from my understanding, like what the other people have been saying during these interviews and otherwise, like it does seem like there's a like the tier of competition is very high in Europe. Like I don't think there's any teams that are like, there are definitely teams that are going to be question marks, because like from what my understanding, there's going to be 5 new teams like coming in, like Canada, Australia, Lithuania, Bulgaria, and Cyprus I believe are all first-time teams in EuroBowl as a whole. So, what skill level, what kind of mentality those people bring is going to be sort of a mystery until you see it. And yeah, definitely, I think
there's a few teams that's really jokers, like
mm,
Malta and Greece,
mm,
and maybe also a team like Canada. It's really hard to know how good they are, because but it's even though back in the old days, the best team would never lose to a team in the middle of the pack. It would basically never happen. But that is gonna happen at this EuroBowl, because the general level of play is so much higher than it was 10 years ago. So that makes for interesting games.
certainly.
It's just that winning the tournament requires a level of consistency that few teams can manage over 6 rounds. And the fact that we almost won 6 rounds and one did win the tournament was quite an extreme event. So let's do that again.
I don't think anyone's gonna go into the tournament thinking that it'll be like an easy walk. Even the teams, the likes of like France and England, are going to be like taking their opposition seriously. I'm sure. I don't think anybody who's going to be.
I think England lost to Sweden and Poland last time, so they're probably gonna try to get some revenge this time around.
Yeah, some payback. Yeah.
Maybe I misremember. Maybe it was Greece and Sweden. I don't know. I don't remember.
Right. But yeah, with that, I think it is time that we move on to the first round opponent for Team Denmark, who is one of those mystery teams. I believe you're facing off against Australia.
Yeah, that's true.
take a look here. If you know, like, if any of these names tell anything to you, please do elaborate. I have scanned the names, and none of them sort of like jump up to me as players I know.
I know Clay Infinity from Fumble, and he has a handful of seasons in my Super League. And I also think I know this Rabbit Box Scrum, but I don't know. I had to look up Clay Infinity on Fumble to reiterate where I knew the name from. And I don't know their level as such. I don't have a lot of knowledge about them, so there can be very good players in the mix, and there can be surprises. But it is also the case that they are playing in Australia and Oceania mostly, I would guess, and then they're playing online, and you can become a very good player by playing online. But you are still more often than not a product of your local meta, and to be very good anywhere outside of Europe is hard. North America has some very good players, but they are relatively few compared to the overall scene. So there should be comfortable difference in skill level here. That's what I expect, and we will be very disappointed if we don't win. So we will need to take this task on and prove that we are good enough to win this comfortably. That's what I expect.
All right. With those words, let us take a look at Almic85 as the first one we have on Orc roster, which deviates a little bit from the norm in that there is instead of a Mighty Blow Blitzer, there is a Frenzy Blitzer instead, as they are also packing assistant coaches.
Yeah.
So who is he going up against?
Oh, I can find the list. I don't have it right here. He's going up against the Lizardman, I think, Jaka. Let me just find it to be sure. Yeah, it's the Lizardman against Orcs. And yeah. So
the with the Lizardman team going with that sneaky git build, how do you think it'll fare into, because like aside from the thrower, this is all going to be AV10 plus that he's going to be have to deal with.
Yeah, but basically one of the sneaky git is not as such bad against high armor value. Of course, it's less good, but because you only risk getting sent off when you roll the injury roll, you do always get value if you break armor. And of course, it's going to be a little bit harder to foul and protect the sneaky git against the orcs, and fouling is probably going to be less frequent than it could be in other matchups, but a roster like Orcs is actually pretty vulnerable to fouls, because it's not like you have Thick Skull and I don't know if there's an Apo. There's an Apo in here, but they are actually very vulnerable to losing players, because they are dependent. A team like Orcs is very dependent on having a full team, or at least not be outnumbered. So there can be opportunities for strip ball, but it's not the key purpose of having the strip ball. Lizardmen are pretty good against orcs. I guess orcs are also pretty good against lizardmen.
Yeah.
Yes, the 3 guard pieces. I think it's a pretty even matchup.
Yeah.
But I think maybe the sneaky git is not so much to help in this matchup, but it still has a role to play. And we will see if it does work.
Yeah, I can certainly see like perhaps Almic is going to be a little bit more careful, because like if he loses like one of the big and guards in particular to a sneaky git foul, that will definitely swing the doing the
Yeah.
melee.
And you're gonna be a little bit more careful with your guard pieces,
Mm.
maybe, or whatever, and it can give an edge in other parts of the game.
All right. Well, we have Clay Infinity coming up next as the vampire team, and they've elected to go for the stacking up of skills.
Yeah, and that was actually the Dutch strip ball, and I like it. Uh, I I like Dodge as the first skill on vampires,
Mm.
so maybe I also like Dodge on the Blitzer. At least I like the Dodge strip ball combo. I think it's very strong.
Mm.
He's up against uh, the Amazons, so no sure hands. So that's not great news.
Mm.
Right there, it's paying off already. I think it's a good roster. This roster. And whether or not this is better than having two block dodge throwers or some other stack I think it's hard to say because they are very all of the vampires are very strong if they have two skills. I
Mm.
think putting block dodge on the runners is a mistake because they're gonna be too fragile anyway and
Mm.
they can't do enough work with the two skills they have. So I like this roster actually.
What kind of concerns me a little bit about this matchup against the Amazons in particular is that the Amazon dodge is going to probably do a lot in the matchup because there is only the one block.
Yeah, and that speaks into the weakness of the stacking roster, right?
Mm.
Because you could have put two block on the vampires, but even with two blocks, if you had the block Mighty Blow, okay, you would have a real weapon against the Amazons.
Mm.
But I think that has other weaknesses. But if you put two block on these vampires, every time you need a good block or a good blitz, it needs to be a vampire. You need to roll the bloodlust roll.
Mm.
There's nothing for free. Every time a thrall does something, it's bad.
Mm.
So yeah, that's the weakness of the stacked roster. But generally, I like the roster.
I again, having my personal like tabletop gameplay is like experience is limited. I would I'm hard pressed to see that like either team has like a definitive advantage over the other because I think like with the hypnotic gauge the vampires can definitely put a wrench in the plans of the Amazons to like on their scoring plans, but I also like the full dodge on the Amazon team certainly frustrate the vampires, I think, no end. So
Yeah, yeah, I think I think it's gonna be a tight matchup. I think also.
all right, next up we have Georgie Christo, who I believe is the Australian team captain, and he's still bringing Underworld, which is we've seen Underworld rosters before, but with the nerf that they took, a lot of the sort of top tier players have not been so enthusiastic about. But he's
No, and it's a big question mark, right?
mm.
I just noticed that Strider won his first game, but the team trying to prove it's still good enough to play against the best. So that's the first indication, and I think it's probably still quite strong a roster, and the one-turn potential is just ridiculous. And fouling with bribes can be extremely effective.
Mm.
But I like the chances of the Dark Elves in this matchup, but it can go things can go awry really quickly with the dirty player and mighty blow. So yeah, we dropped the underworld, I guess, mainly because of the uncertainty about where they are at,
Mm.
and the sense that they will too often lose too many players too fast
Mm.
to compete. But I think in some games, at least, they will be very hard to handle.
One of the things that I do pick up on this roster is that it is, I believe, the first Underworld roster that we've seen. A Rat Ogre is not there. There, in fact, the troll. And
Yeah, that's it's an interesting point because now that guard doesn't work on the fouls,
mm,
it's it's less of an edge. But actually, I think the guard role and the Mighty Blow Blitzer plays very well into the fouling
mm,
strategy.
mm,
Because with the Red Ogre, there's a lot of things you have to do that you don't have to do with the Troll. Positioning the Red Ogre and positioning the Trolls are very different animals, and one is a lot easier than the other, and the Troll is not vulnerable like the Red Ogre is. So there's if you are if you're out there to kill people by fouling, I think the Troll can be a better choice than the Red Ogre, but also because the Red Ogre will either lose blitzes or kill underworld players in the game if you blitz with them every time.
mm.
Also, right? So I think it's an interesting choice. We had an interesting situation of a completely new player showing up at a big one of the most prestigious tournaments in Denmark, showing up for the first time for the first tournament with an underworld build. He built without talking to anyone in the known Danish meta. He showed up with the guard troll, with a dirty player, with some other stuff that we didn't consider regular at the time. He went 4-0-0 and won the tournament, like basically walking in from the street, and we were quite surprised. So it can do work, but it was also with swarming and with guard on fouling and stuff like that. So it was a stronger roster.
Yeah. Certainly, like that sort of I hate to call it a miracle run, but that is certainly a dark horse that enters in completely unknown and wins a major tournament is definitely like something that you'll feel proud about. I'm certain as a Blood Bowl player if you can achieve.
Yeah. I was impressed.
Yeah.
He started in the first game beating me, and what I was most impressed about was actually not that he won the game, but that he outplayed me because I underestimated him, and that was quite a shock. But I think I learned a lesson from that.
Well, it's always good to be able to take lessons from losses. Yeah. But yeah, it is one of those things that like the underworld troll, like it is at least gives the underworld also a little bit of like a backup in just in case like something happens to the gutter runner, right? Like you still at least have the throw teammate option now with the troll in the roster, so there is that versatility, I guess, to be recognized as well. But yeah, I'm very curious to see like just how much like Underworld can achieve, whether it's this Underworld or other Underworld teams like in the
Yeah.
world.
Thinking about it a little more, I probably like the troll build less after they lost swarming, because when they had swarming, trying to maintain numbers on the pitch was easier. Now they only have 11 players, so they can probably not manage a single drive, not losing players. So the strategy of maintaining players is maybe less viable, and the Red Ogre just killing people off is maybe better. But yeah, we've been talking way too much on Underworld the last 4 years, so
Maybe it's time
so
that they take a step back.
yeah, at least they're not clearly broken anymore.
All right. Moving on to Greedy Smurf, who is playing a team that has not, at least in the interviews, has not yet shown up, and that is Chaos Chosen. And he's gone for stacking skills on them as well. So this is I mean, I think the game plan here is fairly clear.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure that it can ever be clearer than what he has done.
No, it looks like Blood Bowl in the 90s, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I yeah, I and it can work. You might take out 2 players in the first turn and one in the second and one in the third, and then it's going to be hard to play against.
Oh.
But it is by no means an optimal roster to choose in terms of your win percentage chances. But it's not easy to handle a block claw Minotaur, and block sure hands gives a lot of safety, and chosen blockers with block can do a lot of work if they get the space to do it. So if you get up 2 men with this roster, life is going to be good. If you don't, life is probably not going to be so good.
Yeah. Yeah, I do feel that like of all the teams, like Chaos chosen to me, like in a tournament environment, feels like one of the most limited in like what you can do with like the roster. Just because of like how the roster is, like how the team is designed to work. Like even like Nurgle, because it comes with like the built-in skills with like disturbing presence and like foul appearance and like the tentacles on the spawn. Like even they, like, I feel have more sort of like options, I guess, or like they play better in a tournament environment than like what this team does. But who
Yeah,
are
it
yeah
yeah. Sorry.
yeah who is Greedy Smurf going to be facing on the
He's
Danish?
facing the orcs.
Hmm.
Not sure those orcs. So there's there's a lot of cans to be opened with those claws if he gets the chance. So that will be the question for that game, right? Is the Minotaur gonna succeed, or is the orcs gonna dominate by the means they have to play? And yeah, it is a very primitive roster, the Chaos roster, and there's not much you can do to make it different. You could drop the claw and stack 2 block guard Chaos chosen to make a different game plan, but it's still it has a lot of weaknesses, and it will win once in a while, but it shouldn't win most games. Yeah, I've been surprised by some places, particularly in Poland. I had some discussions with them about rules throughout the years, and in connection with them being supposed to host the EUROBOWL 2 years in a row under Corona.
Right.
So I followed some of their tournament because some of them also used some of my rules, and they have had periods where some guy or some guys just seem to win everything with Chaos chosen. But I think it's a very local thing where some people play in some way, and other people maybe don't. It somehow fits the meta of what people are doing or something like that. But it let's see. I jinxed us many times already tonight, and jinxing us one more time, I'll say this team shouldn't win a lot of games. So so let's hope they don't win against us.
Yeah. Next up, Gumby Wood Elves.
Yes.
I think this is so far the only Wood Elf roster that sort of like I lost track of what I was about to say. Like, this is the Wood Elf roster seems very, like, it just seems very capable into many a matchup. Like, and like I've been more and more convinced with like putting, because like I was thinking like in a tournament environment that I was initially thinking that you'd put the skills on the catchers to try and get as much value out of the catchers as possible. But I have become more and more convinced of putting the skills instead in the linemen to make them more valuable.
Yeah. since you've probably been playing against block sidestep catchers in Blood Bowl 2, and that's a thing, but that's not a thing here. And block catchers is nice, but basically irrelevant because they have strength 2 and they're not going to do a lot of work. And if you want a blotcher, you probably use your war dancer. What I consider the most important skill that, apart from war dancers, is 2 dodgers to put on the line of scrimmage. Because a 3-man and 2 dodgers on the line of scrimmage makes it so much harder for your opponent to do damage, regardless of what roster they bring. Maybe apart from dwarves, right? Then maybe you want the wrestlers. But I mean, it's just such a big difference. Even against the tackle mighty blow blitzer, if you put 2 dodgers on the line of scrimmage, the tackle mighty blow blitzer is only going to be in one place, so he can block one of them and he can't blitz another guy. So those 2 I think are key. And these, like K-Fold said, these skilled linemen are just so much better than the rookie linemen. So the skills should absolutely go there. And I think the only thing worth considering is the leader and possibly a sidestepper, but probably not, because the Wood Elf, a sidestep catcher, the Wood Elf 1-turn score is basically not good enough to merit it, because you don't have enough players and you need 3 pushes, and in the situation where it's relevant, it's too unlikely. Because if you are down to that situation, you probably don't have the players to manage it. Straume and myself has been experimenting with dropping tackle, which I think is the correct choice between tackle and frenzy, for sidestep. And that has different purposes. It has some 1-turn defense purposes. It has some offensive 1-turn purposes. But it also has a lot of other purposes. And I believe Straume is running it with great success. So that's the only thing I would tickle in this roster in terms of skills. Then you can have variations about throwers and catchers and stuff like that, and they're probably all fine, whatever you prefer. So I think it's a strong roster. Who's he up against? He's up against Renegades.
Ooh, Renegades seems like a team that can be very vulnerable to the way that Wood Elves like to play their game.
Yeah, for sure, they can be very vulnerable, but Wood Elves can also be quite vulnerable to Lord Borag and stuff like that. So I think it can quickly go some way. So we will see how it goes. It will be interesting to see.
Certainly.
And leaping is not as easy as it was, right? So that's an issue. But you can't roll too many ones with your big guys with facing Wood Elves.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
It is, and both teams can be like Wood Elves more than the Chaos Renegades, but both teams can be at times surprisingly fragile. So even if the
with the 4th strength 5 piece, it's somewhat less fragile.
Yeah.
At least for starters. If it really goes badly, then they can be really fragile. But it's a different story than three big guys and some human linemen. It sort of changes the game to have that Khemri feel.
All right.
But we will see.
Yeah, certainly an interesting matchup. Magic Pirate, coaching the Skaven roster here. Kick on a blitzer, leap on a gutter runner. You wrestle gutter runners and a strip baller. Leader, tackle, juggernaut. That's some. I can understand wanting kick like on a Skaven roster. Like I can understand why you would want it, right? Like I can see the thought behind it. But really? Like not convinced. Not convinced that it's like kick
No,
is worth dropping like a guard.
no. As I said, there are three blitzer skills: tackle, guard, and mighty blow, right? And putting kick on a Skaven team is fine, but putting another blitzer is a mistake. So, and the leap is just a luxury you can't afford. So there's so much else you would want.
No sidestep on the gutter runners either. Drops me the wrong way.
Yeah, it's funny because 2 years ago in Malta, I think most Skaven team did not have a sidestepper. But I think anyone with real experience of top level Skaven play has a sidestepper at this point. But I'm not. Maybe I don't know. The one-turn score is so easy, no matter what you do. but sidestep does make it slightly easier.
And it certainly has more defensive utility than leap.
Yeah.
I do apologize if there's any Australians watching this and think that we're being maybe a little too scathing on this, but I am like
I guess we should return to, at least I thought about it, and yeah, we are maybe being a little bit harsh, but that's my style, and I do it with love, and I'm very happy to have Australia here. I think it's great. I think it's great that we invited teams from outside Europe to join, and I'm very happy that both USA and Canada and Australia joined. I think it's a great thing that we have these big events where we meet international players. It's so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And to really welcome them in the Blood Bowl style, I do hope that like people will put the boot in on the Skaven as well, just as a nice little friendly pat, right? So who is Magic Pirate going to be going up against?
Against Mr. Cappuccino's Undead.
Okay.
And as we talked about, it's hard to win against Skaven, but Undead is not a pleasurable matchup for Skaven.
No.
So that's as we heard, Oliver Dulac wants to ban Undead, and that's probably a big indication of the nature of this match.
It's like the Skaven can certainly be facing some real attrition on the pitch, like against the mighty blow that Undead are going to be bringing in.
Yeah. So let's hope he gets to kill the strip baller and finish the game.
Right. Then we have Rabbit Bog Scum playing Lizardman, and he's bringing the second best apparently way to run the Lizard roster.
Yeah, that's true. So good job.
Yeah, well done to him. Who is he gonna be going up against?
Yours truly.
Ooh. Vampire on Lizard.
Yeah, and I haven't played a lot of games, as many as I could have with vampires, and I only have one against Lizardmen, but I think it counts as a quite good matchup. So I will be hoping he doesn't just kill off all my players and expecting to grab the ball.
It is certainly one of those like again not really having any experience with the new vampires, but a lot of people have been saying that like Lizardmen are one of the teams that are going to suffer against the vampire team, just because of like hypnotic gaze working so well, and the vampires being so fast and able to like keep up with and like deal with the skinks as well.
You have weak ball carriers. You have no guard. You have you have bad mobility. Even though you can only afford to tag these Sauruses so much. I will be intrigued to see his game plan and hope that that he doesn't find something brilliant that surprises me too much. And
Yeah, something brilliant that surprises you just enough so that you still win the game, but something that you
yeah,
can maybe
that's the
take.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
yeah. Fair enough. All right, and last but not least, Robo Ducky, bringing the Dark Elf roster with no assassins on this roster, leader runner instead, and uh, 3 dodges and block wrestle for the Witch Elves. Yeah, it's
Good on the conservative side, but I really like this roster.
mm,
I'm still not undecided on whether I like this most or the assassin
mm.
roster most.
Who is he going to be going with?
Against tanks Skaven.
Ah, hmm,
Yeah. So
hmm.
does he have 12 players? Maybe
That would
no
be
Apple and 12 players.
4 blitzers, 1 runner, Witch Elves. That's
Yeah.
7, and then yep, that is 12.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's actually the one thing I don't like about it.
Mm,
I think you should go with the Apple,
yeah,
but it's still good.
yeah.
And sometimes the 12 player is better than the Apple, but that's situational.
Yeah, it is one of those things that the Dark Elf rosters are very dependent on their positional, like staying in the game and being able to do their thing. So the Apo does do,
Yeah.
but yeah, against Skaven, um, I feel that like Dark Elves, like unless the Skaven armor fails them, I do feel that the Dark Elves are going to be at a disadvantage in that matchup.
Yeah, I think so too, because the Skaven has some attrition to bring to the table, and the Dark Elf defense is not really gonna cut it, and they don't have a real good answer to the one-turn score. So all in all, the Dark Elves can easily win the game if things go their way. But the Skaven have more win conditions. I think.
Yeah, I do like. It's a question of like at the dark having the runner rather than the assassin does mean that the ball sacking ability of the Skaven is going to be a slightly lessened because of the dump off, of course. Uh, but then there's the flip side to that is that well the assassin like Skaven are one of the teams that an assassin could do some real good damage against because of
Yeah.
the lightness of the armor. So I don't know like in that particular matchup which one would be better, but yeah, it's definitely going to be one of those like that I feel that the Skaven have a very very good chance of winning just because as you said they have I think the more options to win the game.
Yeah, yeah, that's also my take.
All right. That is all of the Australian players and their respective team matchups done with. If
Yeah,
you
I'm looking forward to seeing you guys from Australia.
mm.
I hope you don't hate me too much for all my arrogance.
Yeah, and I'm sure that like hopefully all of the new teams that are coming into EUROBOWL will find a very pleasant like great event and they'll want to come back again. Again, like community for Blood Bowl is the important part of the hobby, and like everyone should have a good competitive time. Hopefully at Athens, um, and like getting like it is especially I to me like impressive that people from Australia had both the will to come and like the interest to come to so far away a place to play
Yeah,
some Blood Bowl. So
absolutely.
kudos to them for coming and hopefully showing us a trick or two as well, like from their local meta maybe.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah,
for
unless
sure.
you have any final words, any final messages you want to send out to viewers, listeners,
Nah, I think I've spoken way too much already.
All right, sorry, Stephen. Cyrus DK says best of luck, Triple. With the
Thank you.
fingers
Thank you.
crossed,
And
uh, so with that, thank you everybody for watching. Hope you had a good time. Hope you enjoyed, and hope you'll be here for the next one. I am currently where I'm trying to see if I can get Lithuanian captain. To that is probably going to be on the Friday if we manage to schedule it. But that is, for now at least, that is the next most likely doing, and that is the only one that I have that seems at least that who seems available. Again, this is very much a spur of the moment thing that I sprung up on people, and I'm very glad both for Tripleskull and all of the everyone else who's already participated for giving me the time. And But with that, once again, thank you for coming, and as I always say, good day, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning, whatever happens to be the time of day for you. Have a good one.